Using animals to entertain us has become controversial in recent times.
We were having tricks like elephant trying to fly, but it wasn't a natural display.
Over the years, the Singapore Zoo has had to learn to balance animal welfare
It actually aches to see them in pain.
with human education and entertainment.
If they decide not to participate, they can disengage anytime.
But is the zoo changing fast enough?
Pedro, are you ready?
This is the best way for us to educate the public. I would continue to do the presentation as long as we see benefits.
Every week, 60,000 visitors would watch animal shows at the zoo. For over 30 years, they've been an important part of the zoo's offerings, especially when it comes to the elephants. But in 2018, the zoo made a drastic move. It stopped all elephant performances.
Oh, wait, look, she's tickling your carrot, come on. There, what's happening? She's bullying you today.
We were having tricks like elephant trying to fly, elephant trying to grab our legs to attract the kids and the family and then make it more laughable.
What is all this shenanigans today? What's happening?
But those were not naturally done. Elephants don't do that. It wasn't a natural display. The show, though it was very famous, we don't want the animals forced to perform for the sake of entertainment.
I'm just come with the help of God, man.
We always try our best to adapt new practices, which is good for the animals. We learn and observe how other facilities take care of the animals, and we evolve. Seeing the elephant itself is entertaining. You see, she's trying to stamp on her. You saw her.
Udhaya has been working with the elephants for 7 years. He's instrumental in designing new ways for visitors to enjoy these mammals. Instead of performing tricks, this is what you see now when you go to the zoo. Enticing the elephants to display their natural behaviors using toys and treats.
And these are all female Asian elephants. But we have a Pangolin being very confident.
We don't follow a routine. It's a demonstration of behaviors, what the elephants do. When they understood the concept of coming out and then getting these things during the presentation, they got excited. And then we see this competition of who comes first. They're more involved, they're more excited to participate. One basket you can share with your family members.
To encourage more interaction with the elephants, the zoo is continuing with its twice-daily public feeding sessions.
It's good for children to have this up-close interaction with the elephants. Look at how the elephant grabs the food.
They can show their natural habitat.
Elephants are quite social. As long as we treat them correctly, actually we're all right for them.
This is the best way for us to educate the public. I would continue to do the presentation as long as we see benefits. If there is something new which can be done better, we will evolve to that.
At the night safari, one of Singapore's critically endangered mammals is stepping into the limelight. The Sunda pangolin, a scaly anteater, is shy and easily stressed. So the program will be a small, intimate affair, but with an important message. Adi has been taking care of the Night Safari's pangolins since 2014. He's now training 6-year-old Radin to be part of a demonstration for the Explorer Outpost program to educate visitors about pangolins and the threats they face. Using a whistle and rattle, the zookeeper is showing Radin how to follow a target along a marked route.
I would shake at a specific spot. So as soon as the animal touches the target with its nose, so that is the correct behavior. We want him to be there. So the whistle marks that the behavior is correct and it's going to be followed up with a reward. Well, Radin is one of our pangolins that was born here. He's quite food motivated, which makes him quite suitable for the program.
Adi started to train Radin in March, but he had to stop a month later when the circuit breaker kicked in. While the program hasn't resumed in these pandemic times, Adi continues to go through the paces with Radin to keep himself and the pangolin familiar with the routine.
We'll coax the animal up this ramp, showcasing its ability to climb. And then we'll try to feature its ability to use its prehensile tail. Radin would do his own thing sometimes. A lot of these things are quite natural to the animal. It's just whether or not you can do it on cue.
Over here is our first guest for tonight. Her name is Pangolin.
Critics of zoo animal shows often say that such programs cause stress in wild animals, from the lights, music, and even cheers of the crowd.
They use these claws to dig tunnels or to dig through ant nests to find food.
But Adi believes they've taken enough measures to avoid distressing the animals.
All of the training is conducted via positive reinforcement training. If they decide not to participate, they can disengage anytime. Number two, we do select individuals that are most suited for this kind of program. These tend to be food motivated and most accustomed to people's presence, noise, and the light. And lastly, their welfare is always maintained. They go out once per night. And also, we limit the program to no more than about 15 minutes. Plus, there's a scaly one, that's the pangolin.
Oh, yeah, pangolin?
Yeah. Here at the Explorer Outpost, we share what the guests can do on their part. For example, not to consume the pangolin scales. Pangolins are really rare in zoos in the region, and we're one of the few zoos that do have them. In Singapore, one of the main threats pangolin is facing is roadkill. Most of the pangolins in our care are rescued from road accidents.
Pedro, are you ready?
Just as the zoo is about to resume its animal shows, its star performer is rushed into an emergency operation. Is this the end of his time in the limelight?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how about a big warm welcome for the star of the show? We have Pedro.
For the last 10 years, Pedro has been the star of the zoo's popular Splash Safari show. At 21 years old, the California sea lion is already in his old age.
And there you go, guys. It's 40 kilometers per hour, almost as fast as a moving car.
But he continues to perform 5 times a week with the enthusiasm of someone half his age.
They all have their own unique personality and characteristics. I enjoy training him because he is very playful.
Victoria has been training Pedro for over a year, communicating mostly through a whistle.
If you do hear a whistle coming out, it's usually telling the sea lion, good job. He can get cheeky at times and he's going to try to get it wrong. And you have to take the smaller steps towards that behavior, and in that step, I'm actually giving him more fish, and he knows that. And can test you as a trainer.
When the zoo shut in April, Pedro could no longer entertain his audience. Instead, he spent his days training at least twice a day in preparation for the zoo's grand reopening. But in June, just as the zoo was about to reopen, the aging sea lion's cataract in his right eye took a turn for the worse. Pedro had to undergo emergency surgery.
His lens fell forward in front of the eye, and this caused a secondary problem, which is glaucoma. That's when the eye pressure shoots through the roof and causes immense pain to the animal.
For anyone who takes care of animals, it actually aches to see them in pain.
It took 6 vets and 3 nurses 2 hours to complete the operation. But it will be weeks before the vets can assess his recovery and decide if Pedro can perform again. Since his surgery, Pedro's keepers have been taking special care to make sure the sea lion doesn't miss a single painkiller or skip a single eye drop. They've also been conditioning Pedro to stay still for an uncomfortable eye test, which will be performed by the vet next month.
So what I have with me right now is a mock machine. So this is a dummy. And I'm going to bring it close. I'm just going to lightly tap on his eyelids. There's not much pressure to eat. Just tapping, tapping.
The sea lion is a dangerous animal. If he wanted to hurt us, he could very easily do so. But it's the level of trust that we have for him and him for us to know that he's in good hands.
Good job. Okay. Good boy, Pedro.
It's 1 month later. Time for the vet to check the pressure on Pedro's eye and decide if he's well enough to take the stage in today's show.
There's a small probe that hits the eye very gently and bounces back to let the machine know what the pressure is within the eye. It's extremely uncomfortable, but he tolerates this. The reading that we got was very much within normal limits. We will still be monitoring him very closely, but he's a very energetic boy and he really wants to get out. I think he would really enjoy going back to show.
Even as the zoo provides a safe haven for its animals, it's also taking steps to save the world's wildlife before it's too late. At the leopard enclosure, Nuwa and Raja have been trying hard to conceive a cub to continue Raja's lineage. Will their efforts finally pay off? Over the years, zoos have become more and more vital in helping to boost wildlife populations across the globe. And Wildlife Reserve Singapore is joining in the fight. Every year, it breeds over 600 animals across 130 different species. It's been 2 months since the Singapore Zoo's only female leopard, Nuwa, mated with new arrival Raja. A leopard cub from them would be a precious addition to the fewer than 100 Sri Lankan leopards that are under human care around the world.
Nuwa missed her hysterocycle after the 1 month of mating. Then we were told that she was pregnant. but it was just delayed by 1 week. So that confirms that she's not pregnant. The next cycle, right, we're going to mix them again. If it's not successful, I will inform the vet department. They will have a backup plan of AI, artificial insemination.
The whole procedure of artificial insemination can be a little bit tedious. It involves collecting semen, it involves anesthetizing the female. You know, we have to make sure she's at the right time of ovulation, and then we do the insemination. And then there's that whole heartbreak when they actually don't get pregnant.
Less than 1,000 Sri Lankan leopards remain in the wild, and their numbers are falling rapidly, mostly due to the loss of their natural habitats. While the Sri Lankan government is working to conserve those within their borders, across the world, the zoo community is working to breed those under human care.
We cannot just always leave it to nature. A lot of times by doing that, the animals go extinct. So captive breeding has actually helped a lot of species. Unfortunately, you're not always get a pair where their reproductive status is at their peak. You will get them at different levels. There's always variables. Sometimes it's hard to mimic the wild. Over the years, it's become trickier for us to get them to mate naturally in captivity. So we use assisted techniques because if we want to sustain this species long term, you can't just wait until it's too late.
While the vets consider artificial insemination, the zoo has more pressing issues to deal with, like the fallout from the global pandemic. Although the zoo is reopened, visitor numbers remain below pre-COVID levels.
Let me push a little bit. Okay, push. Goes inside.
New programs like virtual hangouts barely make up for the losses. So the zoo has had to get creative.
We have schemes like pay now and come any other day in the future. Our annual pass for 12 months, so we extended to 18 months as well. There are micro sponsorships and adopt an animal schemes. Currently, we are on a survival mode. We've made short tactical changes, but the long-term goals of protecting wildlife will go on unabated. Money will always be hard, but we will not drop the ball when it comes to the welfare of our animals as well as our conservation partners in the wild.
Good morning. Okay, come. Ayo, you stop. Okay, good girl. Okay, can I get you to come here? Okay, you wait.
Mickey is one of the newest members of the herpetology team. She takes visitors on a behind-the-scenes tour of some of the world's creepiest creatures, reptiles and amphibians.
They don't have eyelids, so they have to use their tongue to lick their eyeballs, which is a bit gross but actually very cool. Most of the time we get visitors that are apprehensive of reptiles, so we feed these guys as part of the tour to let them see their natural behavior. For kids, we'll put the puree onto the fingers so that they'll actually get like a sort of interaction with the animal. We will allow guests to like lightly pet them so that they can see that these guys are scaly animals, but not exactly like the scale snake would have, so that we can show them that there are many different kinds of reptiles. This is very important because it allows us to share with them another aspect of these animals. It makes them sort of connect on a personal level and then hopefully get them to support more conservation work. This was the gecko that I really liked a lot, so I took her out a lot to actually handle her and play with her. So I believe she does recognize me to a certain extent. They do respond to positive reinforcement, so I do feel that they have feelings and moods as well. Hi, are you hungry? No?
Please do remember to practice social distancing by keeping at least 1 meter away from the next group of guests.
This show particularly is a very special show because our sea lion, who has been on medical leave for 3 months, is coming back to the show today. Pedro, are you ready?
I was worried because he only can see better out of one eye.
And you know what? He's not done showing off just yet. First up, we've got to flip a walk, a roll over as well. Look at that.
I think he did struggle a little bit with the ball balance, but I still think he did very well, and it makes me very happy.
Flipper stand.
His energy on stage was amazing. It was very full of confidence, so you know that he's ready to take on anything, and he's on the go all the time.
And of course, the skeptics will say, it's just because it's conditioned, it's programmed to do so. But he knows exactly it's showtime and he wants to go out.
Yeah, nothing over there, nothing over there. Pedro, there's nothing in the pool. You can come in.
I personally see it as the animal actually really enjoying what he does. And these guys are very charismatic and they like the attention.
And here he comes over to Fee.
He is, after all, a 200 kg animal. He's twice my size. I can't force him to do something that he doesn't want to do.
You might have also noticed that his eyes are wide open. That is because sea lions have a special membrane which covers the eyes, allowing them to see very clearly underwater.
They're not simply made to do tricks. So what you see in our presentations are usually a repertoire of their natural behaviours for our guests and our visitors to experience and observe these behaviours in a safe, entertaining, yet educational setting.
Even as a global pandemic and changing public perception challenge the existence of our zoos, the vets, nutritionists, trainers and keepers at Singapore's wildlife parks continue to work behind the scenes, caring for the animals at the zoo, protecting our local wildlife and wild species around the world, and redefining the future of Wildlife Reserves Singapore.